The Korean government is putting out some really rock solid numbers, okay? So I know people in public health, working in public health in Korea. I know people in the government in Korea. I mean, they're very accurate numbers, okay? 390,000. So we got to multiply that by 6, and we have 2.3 million. The deaths are a little over 3,000 deaths, okay? And they calculate deaths in Korea, COVID deaths, exactly how we do. If Korea had the same population as the United States, these are what the numbers would be. And look at those on the far right. So, first off, look at the second column, the cases. Huge, huge difference. And then look at the deaths. Okay? Now, I'm not saying this is good or bad. For me, I'm not even going to throw an opinion out here. It doesn't matter. So, can you say something about these numbers in light of freedom, individual liberty, and government power?
I guess the first question to ask is probably like what nationwide efforts were done in Korea that made it such that they had, much lower numbers even after we scale them up to our population size in the U.S. It's more so just based off how you frame the discussion. I mean, also things to consider are like, how do people, like, what's the geography like in Korea, where people live, how tightly they're packed in certain cities, how spread out they are in rural areas. There's like a lot of different variables to consider of why you might have more or less spread. But then, if we're talking about like...
But that's good. Good that you're bringing... There are a lot of things to bring up.
I think like something that could be really interesting is like to think about... I mean, I really don't know that much about the Korean government, but like wondering whether there's like more like controlling policies over the population. Like, are there like more like laws that, for instance, will prohibit someone from going out if they test positive for COVID or things like that? And also from like, and so like just asking like whether there's like a higher government control or less government control. And I think it will be really interesting, for instance, again, I don't know what the answer is for Korea, but like if there was less government control in Korea, maybe what has been driving these factors could also be individual decisions. Maybe there's like a cultural, like there's a big cultural difference, and so people have a higher personal responsibility. And without the need of control, maybe through cultural changes, people have been making maybe the decisions to stay at home or things like that that have also been driving this.
Okay, let's go off on that for a second. So Korea is very similar to China, and you heard your classmates the other day talking about China. There's an inflection, a personal inflection toward the community. Just like people in Korea are much more likely to wear a mask to protect other people. Like you put your mask on, it's more likely that as you're putting it on, you're thinking, I might have COVID, I want to protect somebody else. In the West, as you put a mask on, you're more likely to say, hey, somebody else might have COVID, I don't want to get it from them, I want to protect myself. So there may be something going on whereby there doesn't need to be a lot of government control because people are going to automatically act in concert with one another in a way that's beneficial toward the larger group.
I think, perhaps in Korea you said a lot of their COVID numbers are very trustworthy. Maybe you're trying to indicate that they have like more trustworthy leadership at the higher levels than perhaps we do in the US. I mean, a lot of things about masking in the beginning of the pandemic where there was a lot of talk from our leadership saying like, oh, we think these things don't work, when I think it's personally pretty clear that was never really the case.
Well,
not to get political.
But the idea is at the very least here, there were mixed messages. On one day, it's like, hey, wear masks. The next day, don't wear masks. It's back and forth, so everyone's confused. So you don't have to go to that level, but your point is very well taken. Yep. So here, without a strong, there you got a strong government. There you've got a belief in science. Korean people are highly educated in the world of science. So you, as a physics math major, bro, you would appreciate that, right? You would fit in well. Believe that the scientific the leaders of society, of Korean society, root more of their ideas and their policies and so on in science. In the science of, hey, listen, we're going to try to control this thing using the science of public health that we know, and we're going to go forward with that in mind. So maybe that's stronger government, right? It's like saying, hey, we're gonna build our government around here, and we're not gonna give you over there, these folks on this side. You're more likely to listen to us. Here, from like the moment you come out of the womb, it's almost like we're injected with something that says, don't trust your government, don't believe your leaders. It's like, that has consequences, because there are certain moments when you need to trust your leaders. Do these numbers to the two of you seem really, really seriously skewed in two different directions? 18,000 and 753,000. Like, when you look at those, like, what's your gut?
I do think that they look really similar. Again, just like by the first impression that they give, like the fact that once is like the difference between of them is like, it's really just like really hard to compare. And like if you start thinking like, for instance, like maybe the economic situation in which like the lives of like that each person is going through, like the fact that there's like I don't even know how to do that math in my head, but like it seems like there's like what, like at least 5 times 4, like at least 20 times more as many cases, and like I don't know. I just think that's really large. Like that's a lot. Like to have it there, like, and that it can just be the responsibility of the government and the policies that they're taking,
or the responsibility of the individuals. This is part of the origin of the United States. Freedom has a cost. Okay, for Korea to control guns in the way that they do via a strong state, that has a cost. Because Koreans can't own the guns that they want to own, and there are other ways in which their lives are controlled. But that has a cost.
So I think this is really interesting. Like if you think about it, like this is obviously the perspective of the price that like you have to pay in the United States to have a gun, but like also if you think about it, there's some benefits to it, right? Like the fact that you can have a gun, like is definitely something that is going to bring you more security. So again, like I like that you mentioned these are things that are like more facilitated here. So like for instance, it's easier for you to like prevent a robbery, right? You could think about that. Of course, you would have to look at the data and see like how many robberies have been prevented because of the use of personal weapons, for instance. But like I think that's why like people support the use of weapons here, like because of those reasons that like because you have that autonomy to protect yourself, to basically have like a very powerful, because like a weapon is something very, very powerful if you think about it, right? Like it's something that by just pulling a trigger you can kill someone or many people. So like I don't know. I just think it's a complicated balance.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. This is good. But look, in Korea, you got 246 deaths if they're the size of the U.S., okay, by guns. You don't need to protect yourself. Like, what are you protecting yourself from? Nobody has guns. Like, what's the point? It's like, so at most what you're saying is to the people in Korea who want to own guns, who first off, don't even really want to own guns, because most people in Korea, just like most people in Colombia, I mean, people who aren't from a gun culture are like, why would I need a gun anyway? So like, all right, why do I need a gun? So they're already protected. There's only 246 people died a violent death if it's the size of the United States. So like, in a way, that argument is moot, because if you lived in that world, it's like, okay, well, I don't need a gun then. Let me move on with life, right? And then you say, yeah, but people want to hunt, and people want, okay, well, all right, now let's work on that. But the point being, I'm not making an argument against guns, right? Understand this. That's not it. I'm going like, this is freedom. Is the price of that individual liberty and the ability for any one of you, even in here, right now, even though you're not allowed to be in a place like Penn State, even in here, you still could be packing. And nobody would know. Is the price of that worth it? Is the question. Or is it worth having a stronger state who says, no, you know what, we're going to own the guns, we're going to have them, and you're not going to have them. And you could be like, I'm not sure that's worth it. And these are different cultures, different worlds, different ways of seeing the world.
I don't know. I mean, personally, I kind of like to flirt with anarchy. So, like, taking all guns away in the U.S. is like, I don't really personally see like how that would cut down on violent crimes that are potentially associated with like organized crime, where
Okay.
people could access guns in illegal ways. I don't think, we should have like no restrictions on guns.
But they do. But listen, but they figured it out.
Who's they?
Koreans have figured it out.
Yeah, well, sure, I guess. It's
I
a very
mean-
different culture.
No, I got you. But
Yeah.
you know
and
what
we
I
have
mean, right?
baked into like, our founding and
Yeah, I got
whatever
you.
that, we're all big on guns and we have more guns than people and
Yeah,
all
all
that.
that kind of stuff. Yep. And so we're backing in this way, but the issue is we got to find this balance. And the question is the price? Is it worth the price?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, like, a lot of people who say, like, oh, we have guns in the U.S. to prevent from government tyranny is, like, kind of silly when, our military is, like, pretty well armed. I think practically the purpose of having a gun would be more effectively used in, like, case of self-defense, home invasion, hunting,
Okay.
that sort of thing.
Okay, right. All right. So, and if we didn't have so many guns, we probably wouldn't need to worry about those things anyway.